I stood on the balcony of my hotel suite, the winter sun glinting off the water below. The air carried that sharp saltiness I always associate with the coast. And for a moment, it felt like the world had paused just for me. My phone buzzed in my hand, and when I saw Piper's name on the screen, my chest tightened. She sounded urgent, the kind of voice that pulls you out of daydreams and makes your heart skip. I realized then that this was the moment I had been building toward, though I didn't know it yet. For years, I had been the one to keep everything together, fixing problems, smoothing tensions, making sure my family could relax while I did the heavy lifting. And yet, right now, as I looked down at them laughing by the pool, I could feel the shift in the air, the invisible weight of what was about to happen. They had underestimated me, and I was ready to show them that I was more than just a wallet, more than someone who quietly absorbed their plans. I let my mind drift back for a second to that phone call weeks ago, the one that had seemed so simple. My son Brandon's excitement had made my heart lift. He wanted a family trip, a return to the good old days, a week in the sun with laughter, with connection. And I had believed him. I wanted to believe. I had said yes without hesitation, willing to shoulder whatever responsibility came with it, because this was family, because this was love. And yet, now, standing here with the key cards in my hand and the realization of what they had really planned, I felt something entirely new. Not fear, not despair, but anticipation. There was a quiet thrill in knowing that tonight, I would not just endure the situation, I would reclaim control. The ocean stretched before me, wide and steady, and I took a deep breath. This story wasn't going to be about me being used. Not anymore. It was going to be about me writing my own chapter. My name is Maeve Thompson, and I am 65 years old. Widowhood has taught me the quiet weight of days spent alone, the kind of silence that carries both comfort and longing. I live in a small coastal town called Harbor Ridge in Maine, where the mornings are gentle, and the scent of the ocean blends with the smell of freshly baked pies. Life has settled into routines, baking for the Sunday market, sewing for neighbors, keeping my home tidy and filled with memories of family dinners and laughter from children who are now grown. Brandon, my eldest son, is 38, married to Chelsea, whose laugh always sounds a little too sharp to be sincere. Lucas, my younger son at 35, is married to Brooke, who seems to measure every person in the room before speaking. They have given me 5 grandchildren, each unique and lively. Yet it is Piper, Lucas's 17-year-old daughter, who often stays with me in the kitchen, listening quietly, noticing when I grow pensive, offering a small, understanding smile that carries more warmth than anyone else seems to notice. Early December brought a phone call that stirred something long dormant in my chest. Brandon wanted a family trip, a week in January at a seaside resort called Sabshore. Pools, restaurants, games for the children. He painted a picture of a perfect vacation, one that promised to feel like the good old days. For a moment, I allowed myself to feel included, young again, part of the circle of family life I had often observed from the edges. But that invitation carried a subtle weight. The request for me to handle the reservation felt routine at first, until I realized it meant I would shoulder the financial responsibility. My pension was modest, my savings small, yet the thought of a week together, of seeing my family laugh and swim and unwind, swept away hesitation. I reminded myself that love sometimes required sacrifice, even when it meant counting pennies and selling treasured possessions. I remember sitting at my kitchen table, tracing numbers over and over, feeling the sting of necessity as I decided to sell my wedding ring. 42 years of marriage encapsulated in one circle of gold, now exchanged for a deposit to secure a place for my family. The act was painful, but purposeful. It was my way of saying yes to a memory, yes to love, yes to being part of their world. Every pie I baked, every stitch I sewed, whispered the same promise: this is for family. This is for love. That morning of the trip, I dressed in a soft blue dress that Piper had once told me made me look younger, pinned on my mother's pearl necklace, and carried a modest suitcase to the car. Brandon's excitement filled the street as he honked from outside, Chelsea absorbed in her phone, and the children chattering behind them. Only the younger grandchildren looked up to greet me with genuine joy. I forced a cheerful smile, feeling a familiar mix of pride and apprehension, wondering how the week would unfold. As we drove, I tried to focus on the road ahead and the promise of the ocean beyond, not yet knowing that the cheerful image of a family vacation was about to shift in ways I could never have anticipated. But I held on to Piper's smile, a small tether of warmth and hope, even as uncertainty began to settle quietly in the back of my mind. And so I arrived, ready to be the grandmother, the mother, the quiet force behind the scenes, never suspecting that the very roles I had embraced might be the ones that would betray me. The moment I handed over the deposit for the 5 family suites, I thought the hardest part was over. I didn't yet know how heavy the weight of betrayal could feel. All I had wanted was a week of togetherness, a chance to see my children and grandchildren laugh without distraction. I had sacrificed every pie sold, every stitch sewn, even my wedding ring, so that this trip could happen. I believed in family, in love, in the quiet joy of shared moments. But when we arrived at Sab Shore, the first warning sign came in small, subtle ways. The lobby was shining, welcoming, but the energy of my family was off. They had already slipped away toward the elevators, leaving Piper by my side with an awkward hug and a hesitant smile. The children's excitement carried, but their parents' attention was elsewhere, absorbed in their phones or each other. That unease settled like a stone in my stomach. It was Piper who finally revealed the truth, showing me the messages they thought I would never see. The group chat, created the same day Brandon had called with his cheerful invitation, laid bare a plan I could not have imagined. They had celebrated the idea of a free vacation at my expense. They had calculated every move, assuming I would simply cover the costs and remain unaware. For the first time, I saw that my love and sacrifices had been treated as tools for convenience rather than an act of generosity. My hands trembled as I scrolled through their words, each line cutting deeper. They had called me useful for nothing more than signing the reservation and transferring the money, counting on me to take the financial risk while they enjoyed the sun and the pool. 8 months of pie baking, quiet sewing nights, and the small savings I had painstakingly built, they had treated it as fuel for their amusement. For a moment, I wanted to collapse, to hide away in my suite and let the betrayal sink in. But then Piper's hand touched my arm, steady and warm. She looked at me with trust and a quiet question in her eyes. It was in that small gesture that I found the spark of resolve. I had lived my life as the quiet caretaker, always absorbing the burden. But this time, I realized I could choose differently. I started thinking clearly, mapping out every possible safeguard. The bank, the hotel management, a lawyer I trusted, all were tools I could use to protect myself. I could no longer allow myself to be invisible, taken for granted, or financially exploited. This trip, which had been framed as a joyful reunion, had become a test of my boundaries, my self-respect, and my ability to stand firm in the face of betrayal. And as I held the key cards in my hand, the sun reflecting off the ocean beyond the balcony, I knew that the coming hours would define more than just this vacation. They would define how I allowed myself to be treated, how I chose to respond to those who underestimated me, and the example I wanted to set for Piper about dignity, courage, and quiet strength. The stage was set, the tension rising, and the choice lay entirely in my hands. I could feel the shift in the air the moment where the roles reversed, where I was no longer simply the giver, the fixer, the silent observer. I was ready to take control. Sitting in my suite that first evening, I felt a quiet, almost thrilling sense of clarity. The sting of betrayal still burned, but it no longer paralyzed me. I realized that this was a moment where I could act not out of anger, but with precision. I wasn't just protecting money. I was reclaiming the dignity that had been quietly eroded over the years. I thought first of the bank, imagining how easily someone could dispute the charges. I pictured myself calmly explaining the situation, making sure my account was protected, and ensuring that any attempt to manipulate the payment would be met with thorough investigation. The thought of finally standing on equal footing, where my decisions mattered and my authority could not be ignored, felt empowering. Next came the hotel. I imagined walking to the manager's office, telling him my story, and securing written confirmation that the reservations were entirely under my control. Every detail mattered: who could alter the bookings, what authority I had over the rooms, the timing of any changes. I realized that by taking these steps, I could not only protect myself, but also assert control over a situation that had been designed to undermine me. And then there was Piper. I watched her excitement and trust, and I knew I wasn't doing this just for myself. I was modeling strength, independence, and self-respect. If she could see that one could respond to betrayal with composure and cleverness, maybe she would understand that respect is not given freely, it is earned and maintained through boundaries and clear action. I imagined calling my lawyer next, a man I had trusted for decades, explaining the situation without accusation, but with the full weight of evidence. I could almost see him nodding slowly, understanding the subtle but serious form of exploitation I had endured. His guidance would give me the final shield, a set of documents confirming my sole responsibility and consent in paying for the suites. As I mapped out each step, a calm certainty settled over me. For so long, I had believed that being a good mother and grandmother meant giving endlessly, sacrificing quietly, absorbing disappointments with grace. But this night, I realized that being good also meant standing firm, setting boundaries, and refusing to be manipulated. This was not just about money or keys, it was about who controlled the story, who decided the terms of engagement. The ocean outside my balcony stretched wide and steady, a reminder that the world keeps turning even when trust is broken. I felt taller somehow, as if each phone call I would make and each document I would sign were little affirmations of my worth. I was no longer the invisible woman they assumed I would remain. I was ready to act deliberately, thoughtfully, and with calm authority. And in that quiet moment, I made my mental list. The bank would be first, the hotel manager second, my lawyer third. I would create protections that were both practical and symbolic, demonstrating that I was neither naive nor powerless. Piper's quiet encouragement and faith in me were the tether keeping my resolve steady. I knew that tomorrow would bring the challenge, the confrontation, and perhaps the shock my family deserved. But tonight, I simply let myself feel the satisfaction of planning, the quiet joy of turning a moment of pain into one of empowerment. By the time I rested my eyes, I wasn't just anticipating the next day, I was ready to step fully into my own authority, to see what it felt like to be in charge of a situation that had once controlled me. For the first time in years, the balance had shifted, and I welcomed the change with an open heart and steady mind. The morning sun had just begun to warm the balcony when I saw them gathered by the pool, laughing as if everything was ordinary, as if their plan was safe. Brandon and Lucas were splashing with the younger children. Chelsea and Brooke lounged under umbrellas, sunglasses hiding their eyes, carrying an air of confidence I knew I could undo. Piper stayed by my side, her small hand reassuringly gripping mine, and I felt a surge of calm determination. I thought about the power I now held, the authority that came from paying for the rooms, the signatures, the documents that confirmed I alone could modify anything. For so long, I had believed that family love meant giving endlessly, letting my needs drift quietly to the edges. But today, I realized love also meant protecting oneself, showing boundaries, and standing with integrity. When Brandon's voice eventually came over the phone, tight with urgency, I reflected on how strange it felt to be the one holding the reins. Their keys were no longer valid, the rooms deactivated, and the panic that rippled through them was a mirror of the worry they had never shown me. I stayed calm, feeling the irony settle gently over me, savoring the quiet certainty that I was no longer the person they thought I was. As they approached the desk, flustered and confused, I watched their expressions shift, the forced confidence fading as reality set in. Brandon's usual assurance was gone, replaced with hesitation. Chelsea's sharp composure faltered. Brooke's self-assured gaze dipped to the floor, and Lucas seemed at a loss for words. For years, I had been the one shrinking, the one bending to fit into their plans. Now, the room felt entirely different. I guided Piper through the crowd and up to the suite, the keycards clutched in my hand, and I felt the weight of years lift as I thought about how far I had come. I had planned every step carefully. The bank was alerted, the hotel manager fully briefed, and the legal protections in place. The panic in their movements was no accident. It was the natural consequence of underestimating someone they believed would remain quiet and compliant. I allowed silence to fill the space as they gathered, giving them a moment to confront the truth of their actions. I thought about every pie baked, every stitch sewn, every sacrifice made in the quiet of the night. I reminded myself that I was not seeking vengeance, but justice and respect. This was not a lesson in cruelty. It was a demonstration of self-respect and the dignity that comes from standing firmly in one's truth. Piper's quiet presence at my side was a reminder that family is more than obligation or blood. She had chosen to be here with me, witnessing the strength it takes to turn a moment of betrayal into an opportunity for empowerment. I let them absorb the weight of their own choices, the irony of being powerless when they had planned to manipulate me, and I felt a surprising peace settle over my heart. By the time they understood that the rooms were no longer theirs to claim, I was calm, composed, and centered. The roles had reversed, and for the first time in years, I was not the one bending to the whims of others. I had reclaimed the narrative, rewritten the rules, and demonstrated that dignity and calm authority could prevail over deceit. The confrontation ended without anger or shouting. It ended with a quiet realization that respect is not optional, and that boundaries are a form of love not just for oneself, but for those who are willing to honor them. And as I watched them leave, suitcase in hand, I felt lighter than I had in decades, ready to embrace the rest of the trip on my own terms with Piper by my side. After the confrontation, Piper and I left Sab Shore and found a modest boutique hotel by the harbor. There were no grand chandeliers or sprawling pools, just warmth in every detail. The lobby smelled of fresh bread, and the staff treated us like treasured guests rather than obligations. For the first time in weeks, I felt a deep, quiet peace. As we settled into our room, simple but cozy with 2 beds and a small balcony overlooking the fishing boats, I realized that joy didn't need to be flashy. It could be found in soft linens, the sound of waves, and the shared laughter of someone who truly cared. Piper's excitement reminded me that family isn't just blood, it's the people who choose to stand by you, who honor and respect you even in the small moments. We spent the week walking along the harbor, sharing pastries at a corner cafe, and building small sandcastles on the quiet beach. Each ordinary activity felt extraordinary because it was ours, chosen, and free from drama or expectation. I found myself reflecting on the lessons hidden in the ordeal. Love without boundaries is not love. It is surrender. Respect must be the baseline in any relationship, and even family should not be given unrestricted access to one's trust or resources. I thought about how easy it would have been to respond with anger, but I chose calm and deliberate action instead. Protecting myself did not mean punishing them. It meant honoring my worth. Piper understood this intuitively, following my lead and embracing the freedom of a vacation on our own terms. I realized that by standing firm, I had not destroyed a family trip, I had rescued my dignity. In the quiet evenings, as the sun dipped below the horizon and the harbor lights flickered across the water, I wrote in my notebook, I wanted to capture the feelings of empowerment and clarity, the affirmation that it's never too late to set boundaries, to reclaim agency, and to nurture the relationships that truly matter. By the end of our stay, the week felt like a gentle victory. Piper and I had shared laughter, stories, and quiet moments that would stay with us far longer than any argument or betrayal. I understood finally that life's sweetest moments often come in small, unassuming packages, and that strength is found not just in grand gestures, but in the choices we make to protect our hearts and our well-being. And as we packed to leave, I carried with me the confidence that boundaries are love in action, and that the measure of a family is not only in shared memories, but in the respect and care we extend to each other. As our week by the harbor came to an end, I sat on the balcony one last time, watching the sun ripple across the water. The quiet strength I had found in those days, the confidence to act with calm authority, to protect myself, to honor my boundaries, felt like a gift I had given myself. I realized that respect is never optional, and love without boundaries is not true love. I thought about Piper and how her quiet presence reminded me that family is not just about blood or obligation. It is about the people who choose to stand with you, to honor you, and to witness your strength. I understood that setting boundaries is not selfish. It is a form of love and self-preservation. It is a lesson I hoped she would carry with her for the rest of her life. Reflecting on the trip, I felt a quiet pride. I had not destroyed a family vacation, I had rewritten it. I had chosen dignity over compliance, calm over fury, and action over helplessness. And in doing so, I discovered that the moments of true joy often come from honesty, clarity, and the courage to stand firmly in one's truth. To anyone listening who has felt used, invisible, or undervalued, remember that your voice matters. You are never too old to reclaim your story. Set boundaries and protect your heart. If this story resonates with you, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Leave a comment about your own experiences and join a community where truth and dignity are valued. Because boundaries are not walls, they are doors that open only for those willing to enter with respect.